case number 198. Amendments to various sections of the text of the LaGrange zoning code, special use permit, site plan approval to allow bed and breakfast at 232 South LaGrange Road. Mark, did you have something you wanted to say before we started?
Be happy to. We got to learn to use
How's
these
that?
things. You all have the materials and know what's before you tonight, but it might be easier to consider that there are two interwoven but distinct matters that you'll be considering tonight. One is, and probably what you would consider to be the threshold matter, is the fact that bed and breakfast establishments are not currently permitted in the village. And in order for any bed and breakfast to be located anywhere in the village, it would require an amendment to the zoning code, actually a couple of different amendments to the zoning code, one of which is a determination of in what districts a bed and breakfast would be authorized. And the authorization would be that if you follow the staff's report in the form of a special use permit. The specific application in front of the Plan Commission tonight is for a house that's located in the R3 district on LaGrange Road. Your consideration will be, do we think that bed and breakfasts are a desirable use in the village? Number one. But number two, if you do, then you have to determine where. Across all residential districts, in any district in the village, or limited to a particular district. And then once you reach the determination, if you do, that they are a desirable use, that there is a place for them, then you can determine some of the matters that arise along with that, such as, do we want to regulate the spacing of those uses? In your materials, you see an example of a way that bed and breakfast can be limited in a particular area so they don't become concentrated in any one particular area by use of a spacing limitation. There are other mechanisms for doing that than the one that you see as an example. So all of those things come as sort of a threshold issue for you in determining whether the zoning code should be amended to accommodate any bed and breakfast. All of this, of course, you're doing with the background in your mind that the particular application before you was for a house in the 200 block of South LaGrange Road, which is zoned in the R3 district. And so the best way, I think, probably to proceed would be to have the applicant make its presentation on all of these issues, both the zoning code amendment in particular, but then make a determination in order of the logical order as to how to move from that. I hope that helps. If you have any questions.
That does. Thank you. At this time, can we have the presentation by the applicant? And if you could come up to the podium, please, and be sworn in. Oh, you can? All right.
Makes no difference to me.
That's all. You can just turn it off.
There, how's that? That work? Well, very close.
If you state your name and address, please.
Tom Perry, 25 South LaGrange Road.
You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the whole truth?
That's good. Good evening. By way of introduction, my name is Tom Perry, and along with my wife, Gina, we've been residents and owners in LaGrange for over 11 years and are the applicants for this case. We'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present our ideas and proposals, which are represented by the applications in front of the Plan Commission this evening. Namely, they changed the existing zoning codes that would allow for the operation of a bed and breakfast establishment in a pre-existing single-family residence on South LaGrange Road between Cossack and 47th Street, pending the submission and approval of a special use permit and design review for such an establishment. Secondly, our specific application for a special use permit pertaining to the property at 232 South LaGrange Road, which we intend to rehabilitate and operate as the Inn on LaGrange, a bed and breakfast. And lastly, the site plan submitted for the 232 property, the Inn on LaGrange. As part of our presentation this morning, I will explain how we came to this proposal and will provide a summary of the operating plan for the Inn on LaGrange. I will then ask Tim Trumper, our architect, to provide an overview of the site plan. Next, we will follow up with several local business owners and neighbors of the 232 property who will share with the Planning Commission their perspectives on this proposal. Let me start by explaining how we came to this proposal. Over the years, my wife and I have talked about what we would do in retirement. One of the alternatives was the operation of a bed and breakfast. For the most part, our discussions involved operating such an establishment in a more remote, rural, or touristy type setting, settings that we are familiar with given our past usage of B&Bs. This idea, however, was inconsistent with our intent to live out our remaining years in LaGrange, which we had also discussed many times. That is, until we came upon the idea of establishing and operating a bed and breakfast in LaGrange. This idea was just that, an idea, until last year when, for personal reasons, I decided to hang up my corporate job, at which time this idea started to play a more prominent role in our short-term planning. As coincidence would have it, at the same time of my personal decision, the property at 232 was on the market. This property includes many of the attributes that I thought would make for a successful B&B property in LaGrange. Namely, the existing structures on the property were of vintage character. The house was built in 1889 as a Victorian and thus fit well within an intended vintage setting for a B&B in this village. Secondly, the structures were sufficiently large to accommodate a reasonable number of guest rooms, 4 which are currently planned for the house and another 2 planned in the coach house. Thirdly, the property is within walking distance of the central business, shopping, and dining district. Fourth, the property would accommodate off-street parking for guest vehicles and an innkeeper. Fifth, the property was easily accessible to guests given its location on LaGrange Road. And lastly, the existing rooms in the structures were sufficiently large enough to accommodate guest quarters, including private baths for each guest room. It was the alignment of my personal decision, our previous discussions about retirement alternatives, and the availability of the 232 property that started us down the path that has brought us all here tonight. That path included several discussions with village officials since September, first to vet the general idea, and then to discuss specifics and obtain guidance and direction on how best to proceed with the proposal. These discussions included presenting to and obtaining from the department heads their thoughts, ideas, and any concerns that may be posed from such a proposal. Our site plan, as well as some of our operational plans, have been revised to incorporate the feedback we received from those meetings. We also held an informal discussion with our neighbors at 232 to explain our plans and provide a preliminary design plan for their viewing. For those that were not able to attend, we offered to meet one-on-one with them and share the same information. We also spent an afternoon with an operator of the B&B in Oak Park, whose daughter happens to be a resident of LaGrange. Further insights and comments from this operator, based on her experience in running a B&B for 20-plus years, were also incorporated in our proposal. With respect to other B&Bs in the area, based on my research, there are currently 4 operating B&Bs in Oak Park and 1 in Naperville. Several other villages, including Wheaton and Elmhurst, also provide for such establishments within their zoning codes and align such establishments within their historic districts. In making this proposal, we believe it fills the current need of the village and its residents, chiefly the accommodation of overnight guests that are not accommodated by private residences. With the recent expansion of condominiums, rental apartments, and the existing rental retirement communities, we believe that B&B will provide the accommodations needed by guests of local residents. By establishing the B&B in the historic district and blending it with the surrounding residential community, these accommodations will be provided in a friendly, neighborly community setting that is consistent with the overall theme of the village. Additionally, we believe there are several supplemental benefits to the village by having a resident B&B within the historic district and within close proximity to the central business area. Having guests stay in such a B&B would further promote local shopping, dining, and entertainment. Such an establishment, especially given the design and community requirements, will further complement the charm and character of the village and further enhance the promotion of the village as a final destination for both guests as well as for potential future homeowners. There will also be a revenue benefit, both direct, as I'm confident the village will not forgo some form of fee or tax associated with the services provided, and indirect, based on the use by the guests of the businesses within the village. As to the operation of the Inn on LaGrange, our plans are to provide the following services. Overnight accommodations, not to exceed 14 consecutive nights. A breakfast service, which will include a variety of hot and cold items with service in the dining room and the front porch, weather permitting. Breakfast will be prepared and served primarily by myself and on occasion by the innkeeper and or my wife. Sourcing of foodstuffs is anticipated to be from local shops, so we are not intending to receive any deliveries given the limited number of guests and the restricted nature of our food service. Late afternoon complimentary wine, cheese, pastry, and food service for guests only. Coffee and tea access will also be provided 24 hours a day within the common areas. However, no food items will be permitted in the rooms, nor will pets or animals be permitted on premises, and smoking will not be permitted in the house or the coach house. As would be expected, we will also provide guidance and directions pertaining to the local area, including reservations at local restaurants, and will highlight any local events during our guest stay. Ongoing daily operations will primarily be managed and executed by myself, and since our private residence is only a block away, it will make for an easy walking commute every day. We also have an employee innkeeper to ensure that there is someone resident on premises at all times that our guests are on premises, especially overnight. Innkeeper accommodations and parking have been incorporated within our site plan. Daily housekeeping will be supplemented with part-time assistants, which will be expected to be on site from between 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. when needed, dependent upon the number of guests. At all times, we intend to operate the inn in a manner consistent with the residential nature of the location, as that is a key selling point for any B&B establishment. At this time, I'd like to ask Tim Trumpeter, our architect, to provide a brief overview of the site plan for the 232 property.
Want me to swear in?
Yep.
318 South Ashland, Tim Trumpeter.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes. With regards to this site, it was interesting. We have really a great amount of land to be able to park cars. We were able to accommodate 7 cars, 2 in the garage, and then the other 5 adjacent to the home and in the back. So there are no cars planned to be parked in the front. We're going to be doing a small addition in the back to upgrade kitchen, mudroom area, and create a 4th bedroom on the 2nd floor. We're doing a small addition on the side porch to provide us the ability to put a wheelchair lift so that we can have handicap access into the home. We've taken the approach to renovate the coach house. We currently have put a new foundation under the coach house and made it a viable structure once again. The unit on the 1st floor of the coach house will be our handicap accessible suite. On the interior remodel, we are currently under permit to dig out the basement and lower the basement floor to provide proper headroom so that we can accommodate common space down in the basement. We just submitted for our 3rd permit on the addition and remodeling of the home in process. We're going to be doing new front steps, and we took it upon ourselves, because we have guests in this house, to rebuild the back stairway in a manner that is reasonable so that we have 2 means of egress out of the 2nd floor. Some of the design goals we were trying to achieve in this project is to make sure that whatever addition or adjustments we make to this home blend in and scale in materials. In the interior upgrade, we are currently going to be replumbing the entire home, new heating and air conditioning systems, all new finishes, and while also upgrading the electrical. But we're doing it in a way that we're not trying to make this look like a brand new home. We want to have some of the scars of living for more than 100 years. So we're maintaining all the original radiators for heat, but putting in new systems behind. A couple of safety concerns, because we have guests that aren't familiar, this isn't their home. We're going to be putting in emergency lighting for exiting, and then also, just to reiterate, the handicap accessible nature of the coach house.
Thank you, Tim. Now I'd like to ask a number of our business, if we could, a number of our business associates here in the town to actually talk about the proposal from a local business perspective. I know Tim Reardon is here, Joe Smothers, and I'm missing Teresa unless she's not yet. But at this time, if I can ask them to make their testimonials.
Hi, Tim Reardon at 21 South LaGrange Road.
You swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes. My wife and I would like to commend Tom and Gina for investing in the community during these hard economic times by rehabbing this Victorian home. We believe a B&B in LaGrange brings a certain charm to the area. The guests of the B&B will spend time and money in our restaurants and shops. They'll walk down the streets and see what a great place LaGrange is. They'll tell all their friends about LaGrange, and a few might even move here and buy a home. I think a B&B in the LaGrange area will be an asset to the community, and we support it fully. Thank you.
Jones Colors, 240 Sunset.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes. And I'm a little more long-winded than Tim. I would like to approach this from three perspectives. First, as my husband and I, as 30-year residents of LaGrange. We have rehabbed a number of homes in town, and so I would, along with Tim, like to really commend Tom and Gina for putting the time and money and considerable frustration into taking a wonderful historic building and making it better, making it not an eyesore anymore, and just making it look better on LaGrange Road. LaGrange Road is such an entrance to the town that it's important that all of those homes look great. I also think that it's wonderful to see someone who lives in town and obviously loves the town wanting to and being willing to commit their money and invest in the community and assume that they will be able to make a viable business out of this and be able to retire. You're so young, it just cracks me up you're talking about that. But so I think that it's a positive business venture in terms of the reputation in the town. They have to assume that they will get the support of the residents and also enough business to make this go, and I think that's a wonderful thing to do. Second perspective is from a small business owner in town. Obviously, with the economy, is what Tim was saying, that it is risky at this point to invest money. It's wonderful to make that kind of an investment, and again, it says a lot for the town that people are willing to do that. I also love the idea that new business owners in town are going to bring new, fresh ideas into the business community and just give us all more ideas on how to make the whole entire town more viable. Finally, from the perspective of a realtor, having sold real estate in LaGrange for 20 years, I've seen a ton of changes. It's interesting that in the last 2 years, I've started to get calls from people who have called and said, we're coming in for a graduation or an anniversary, or the most recent one was, we're coming in to visit relatives for Christmas and we don't really want to stay with our relatives. Are there homes that are vacant, that are for sale, that are furnished, that people would be willing to rent for 3 days or 5 days or 2 weeks? That's a new thing, and I think that speaks to Tom's saying that there is business for this, that there are people who are looking to do this. From a realtor perspective, when people come in from out of town, I would much rather have them staying in a quaint, wonderful building where they can walk to town, see what this town is all about, rather than sending them to the Williamstown and Countryside or Oak Brook, which has nothing to do with what LaGrange is all about. So I really like that. I also think that when we get transferees into town, it's the same thing. They need somewhere to stay for 2 or 3 days over the weekend to really shop for homes. They want to sample the town, and I think this is a really great way to let them do that. When I think of bed and breakfast and I think of Oak Park, I think of, LaGrange has this wonderful reputation of being homey and yet urban/sophisticated. And I think, the idea of a bed and breakfast, especially a Victorian bed and breakfast that's really charming in town, really lends itself to what LaGrange is all about, which is a sophisticated environment that is still homey, where people still know each other. And I think that that's really important as well. It kind of blends that hometown feel we keep trying to have in LaGrange with sophistication that newer people moving into town want to have. So that's it.
Thanks, Tim and Joe. Lastly, as part of the presentation, I'd like to ask two of our new neighbors, Dan and Jenny Hofer first, and then Ed Swarthout and Mary Gerker, to provide their perspectives from a neighbor standpoint.
Good evening, I'm Jennifer Hogwarts, 228 South LaGrange Road. Can you hear me now? I'm Jennifer Hogwarts, 228 South LaGrange Road.
You swear the testimony you're about to give us the truth and the whole truth?
Yes. I was born and raised in LaGrange, actually 47th and Wyola. So my perspective is it was a wonderful place to grow up, and recently in the last 5 years have moved back. I would say what LaGrange has done to the village with all the restaurants and the retail has been tremendous to come back and see how that has helped drive the village. The bed and breakfast, proposed bed and breakfast, would be right next door to us. We do think it's a great idea. My husband and I travel quite a bit on business and personally, and always try to stay in a B&B. And often our most favorite ones in Indiana and Michigan were ones that were close to a village of which we could walk into and experience the local community. So we have enjoyed watching the house be renovated. We're really excited with the vintage and trying to keep it in keeping with the age of the home, as ours is also the same 1888 time frame. And we're strong proponents of what Gina and Tom are doing and very supportive of the idea.
Dan Hogberg, 228 South LaGrange Road.
You swear the testimony you're about to give us the truth and the whole truth?
I do. Thank you. As Jenny said, we live just to the north, with the home adjacent to the north. In some respects, it's a sister home to that Tom and Gina have purchased, as those two homes were built by brothers in 1888 and 1889. We knew Terry Lucy, the former owner, longtime owner here, wonderful woman. God bless her. She passed, and circumstances had it that home has sat open for some time. We're very happy with the plans that have been put together by Tom and Gina. And very happy to see the care that they've taken to the property, and we're very supportive of the concept of a B&B right next door to us. I really believe it will bring good people into the neighborhood, into LaGrange. It will be a very good addition, and in our view, welcome addition to the business community, as has been stated by others. We've enjoyed watching the efforts of the construction crew and seeing the care that's been taken to the property. It's very impressive, frankly, as this has evolved, and I'm very confident that it'll be a very nice addition to, or just updating of the look, feel, and presence of LaGrange Road. We're, as I said, very supportive, and we want to thank them for the investment in the community.
Mary Grether at 220 South LaGrange Road.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give us the truth and the whole truth?
Yes. I must start by saying that our family is actually, oh gosh, we've been in LaGrange over 60 years. My mother still lives over in Blackstone. And Ed and I were living at 3 doors north of where this event is happening. And we've been there for 30 years. And it's been, I guess, a little frustrating for us to see these empty buildings anyway. There's a couple of buildings on the block, actually there are 3, including the one that Tom is restoring. And I think that this is really going to, in a sense, add to the value of the neighborhood, to the community. Also, we're on a major traffic area, and I think that this is a perfect location for it. The fact that it's easy to get to, easy to get downtown, and just think of it, the LaGrange is actually a hub for transportation from all different places. Yes, of course, we want them to go to LaGrange, but they can go other places too. And oh my gosh, the pet parade, they can sit on the front porch and enjoy the pets going by. Just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity and such a wonderful community. And in a sense, what they're doing is taking this building that you mentioned on Terry Lucy. We let God love her. She's a wonderful lady. We've known her for a long time too. They're making that building work for LaGrange, becoming a part of LaGrange, and I just see so many potential things happening with this. So they can, people can use the neighborhood. I mean, there's so many wonderful things happening here in LaGrange. My gosh, I feel it's my town here too. I feel that the use of this bed and breakfast, or this home as a bed and breakfast, will benefit our neighborhood and also the community as well.
I'm Ed Swarthout. I'm at 220 South LaGrange Road.
You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the whole truth?
I do. I can't say anything that hasn't already been said as well as I can say it, or better than I can say it. However, I'm wondering how many vacant properties there are in the village of LaGrange. How many vacant properties are there in the historic district? Now, I know on LaGrange Road in the 200 block, there are 3 vacant properties, 2 of which, in my opinion, I would characterize as derelict. 232 and 216. Now, Tom has taken it upon himself to start a marvelous project at 232, and I support him wholeheartedly. And that is really about all I have to say. I'd like to see it happen. I echo everything that I've heard so far. I only wonder if some brave soul will take on 216.
Thank you all for the kind words. At this time, that concludes our prepared remarks in support of the applications before you this evening. Thank you again for the opportunity, and we'd be happy to address any questions that you may have at this time or any time in the future.
Thank you. Can I have questions from the commissioners for the applicant? I have a question. If this were to be approved and you ran a bed and breakfast, do you have an idea how much you would charge per night, per room?
I haven't really developed that per se. I do know that, again, leveraging on experience as we go for our bed and breakfast, the rooms range anywhere from $90 a night to upwards to the high 200s, depending upon the amenities that are in each one of those rooms. I expect to be competitive with those rates, but I also want to put it in the right context of what we're trying to achieve with this bed and breakfast in LaGrange, in this setting, and certainly I'm also looking to at least make some return on my investment of all the rehabilitation and remodeling that's being done. So in that range somewhere, my guess is I'm not going to be the highest, because that will include, and I certainly don't want to be the lowest, because I just don't think it's setting the right perception.
How do you assess the need in LaGrange, besides word of mouth from realtors?
It's really been word of mouth. We've not done any, if you're asking, we've not done any market studies or surveying per se. As I mentioned in my comments, how we came to this kind of proposal, this view, for the most part, the input has been word of mouth through dinners, events, people we talked to about extended families, would they use this type of service? In many cases, certainly the response was yes.
Assuming it's passed, when do you foresee opening your doors?
I know people have asked us already if we're going to be open by March. That's not the case. Realistically, given the amount of work that we still have to complete, if in fact we get the approval, I would say the earliest possible would be late this year, sometime late third quarter or fourth quarter. I know a number of people, including some of my new neighbors, I think that's being aggressive, but I certainly, pending the approval, would like to be aggressive because I think if there is a need, certainly a number of people have asked me about how quickly we will be open. It seems to reiterate that.
I have a question. Tom, if this doesn't go through, what's the back-end plan then?
Certainly the alternative would be most of the remodeling needs to be done on the house, on the coach house anyways, so the alternative would really be to sell it for the market and sell it once the remodeling is complete.
Tom, I have a couple questions. First, I commend you on your ideas for retirement. I'm a bit jealous, frankly. What alternatives did you consider in looking at B&B? And
as far as properties,
in the area, in LaGrange properties, and to the extent that you didn't, why not?
We basically, it's going to sound a little funny maybe. As I mentioned, my wife and I have talked about this idea, and it was just an idea for a number of years. As she well knows, I'm a doodler, and I just kind of keep track of things. Since we've talked about this idea over the years, just periodically I would scope out properties that I thought might meet some of the criteria that I talked about. This property actually happened to be on that listing. There's probably other properties that are also in that listing that are not on the market, are not up for sale. So we didn't do any extensive work with respect to having this particular property on the market and then compared against other properties. But real quickly, I knew the attributes that I just listed off were able to be accommodated at this property, and I really don't know any other properties that I can think of actually up and down LaGrange Road that were or are on the market that would accommodate those same attributes.
So you were specifically looking at LaGrange Road,
well,
as opposed to any other part of the village?
Actually, some of the other ideas I had would be off of LaGrange Road, but quite frankly, I presumed that there would be a larger hurdle to get over if it was somewhere in a more, what I'll call, quiet neighborhood than necessarily on LaGrange Road. Additionally, as I mentioned in my comments, in thinking about giving directions to guests how to get to the location, LaGrange Road just makes a lot of sense because it's a main artery, and it's just a lot easier to provide directions to that location than to try to weave them in and out of some really more wider residential neighborhoods.
I'm not sure if this is a question for Tom or maybe for staff that did more of the research on this, but in terms of the owner-occupied versus employee-occupied, I imagine you want to stay in your own home, and that was your decision for not actually moving into the proposed B&B. And looking at other villages, Oak Park, Naperville, is it predominantly owner-occupied or employee-operator-occupied?
My experience, again, it's not real great research, but the number of research that I have done, I talk to different bed and breakfast operators, is owner-occupied, predominantly.
Have you had conversations with neighbors who were opposed to what you're doing? And if so, what was the gist of those conversations?
I have had such conversations. I think, quite frankly, there's no one here tonight that kind to speak on their own behalf. So rather than me putting words in their mouth, I'll let them speak for themselves.
Do you have any concerns about whether the viability of a B&B?
Again, I'm somewhat of a conservative nature, so yeah, I always have concerns about viability per se. But I think that, again, given the environment in the village, given the trend that we've seen in the village, a lot of families moving out of larger homes, but still having families in the area or moving out to come in for periodic, whether it be holidays or other events, that should provide a reasonable for such an establishment. And from that perspective, I feel confident that I'll be able to make my financial goals with this B&B.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Well, hearing none, I believe we have a sign-up sheet for...
Yes, we do. We have 17 individuals who signed up thus far.